All right, here we go. How's everyone doing tonight? It's a day. It's been a week. No, it hasn't been a week, but it feels like a week. Who wants to make a guillotine? So the question is, what color do we want to make this guillotine? Like realistic colors? We've got lots of things. We've got some brown. Brown might be good to have. We've got some silver. I think that might be good too. That's kind of like a bluish silver, but I think that'll be good. We can do that. What else do we got? We got like a green. Nah. I think we want like kind of with wood. I mean, we could make it like pink. That would be cute too. But it might be good to, it's more ominous and like real if it's like a little bit more color, like wood. Let's see. I've got so many colors. I don't know if you can see all of these colors, but I've got so many colors. Looking at a picture right now of a guillotine on Google. I mean, definitely need some silver for the blade. Like this maybe? That's like pretty silvery. And maybe like a dark, something dark too. That's a little too... I'm gonna fly by the seat of my pants here, so this will be fun. Here's like a dark kind of grayish. I think that might be nice. And we got some brown. Do we need lighter brown? This? No, I don't really like that color. This? It's very earthy. I mean, that way it could be that's a good thing. We definitely want it earthy on our palette to be, because it's wood. It's wood, y'all. There's a lot of brown. What I can do is kind of make my own wool, or my own color. So I can show you like how to do that too. How to see. Today's design is sponsored by Total Shambles of the internet these days. Doom scrolling. Sometimes you just need a break, but sometimes your mind like can't take a break, so you just got to make things that make you feel a little bit better even after you're done. So here's some dark wool. Mix it with some lighter dark brown. Mix it with some lighter brown. Maybe we've got the silver for the metal. Thanks for joining us today. We're gonna we're gonna needle felt some weaponry, some old school weapons, best known for, their existence in the French and performance in the French Revolution. I'm sure they've been around longer than that. I'm sure that they've been fundamental in the world's history. So let's see. This is kind of a unique color palette, but we'll see what happens. Basically, what I'm doing is making sure that I have enough wool to do the whole project. So if I don't feel like the initial brown was enough, then I would mix it with another color. There's lots of ways to do this. This is like the easy way though. I could get out like my carders or my brushes or whatever you want to call them and card the wool more. And I'm mixing kind of like a coarser wool, which I think is like just like better quality. Like I got some wool that's got some real like thickness to it here, and you can if you could feel it, you would feel like that it's like a lot scratchier, whereas I have this other, like they call it top wool or like roving wool, that's like really fine and already kind of like brushed through really well. I think it's wool because my dog likes to eat it, so I wouldn't say that it's like synthetic or fake. It's just really, really silky. Whereas this other coarser wool, when we mix it together, it's gonna like hold its shape better. I'm gonna have to like needle it less. be cool if I could get some like grainy looking like contrast going with these two colors to look like some real wood. But I don't know. I can start with like a small group instead of doing this whole thing. And then we'll see how far we get with that. But, you know, chose the guillotine to just encapsulate how I'm feeling about the state of America, and really just want to like get out some internalized rage. It's just healthier. It's healthier to do that than to like, you know, hurt yourself or let it just sit in you and stew. That's never fun. So I think it's just overall better to like have something that you like to do, where you can make something, you can feel really good just about yourself. That always helps. And having something like in the end that you've done that you like feel really good about, and you're like, I fucking made this, I'm so proud of myself. All that stuff is really important. So highly recommend finding whatever that is. And even if it's just like playing a video game and like beating a level, or like, you know, just catching some Pokemon, or going outside using like a birding app to identify some birds. Like, there's so many things you can do make you feel a little bit better. But I really like crafting because you kind of set a goal in mind, and even if it doesn't turn out like the way you want it to, like at least you have something that you can like hold in your hand and you say like, I made this motherfucker. Expectation versus reality, it's always a sliding scale on like what things turn out like. That's why I usually like to just like make stuff up. You can get a kit or something, but those kits always look like adorable, you know, on the outside of the packaging, and just like it's hard to recreate someone else's like art. So even if they have good directions, and I would say it's hard to come by like really solid directions for something like that or this. So there's like a few different ways that we can do this. Like I'll show you some examples. So I kind of like to make small things. I make a lot of miniatures, so I don't necessarily like make things to scale. I think that would be like a lot of wool, too much wool. That would be a like, really expensive hobby. So like for me, if I was just making like a mini guillotine, like the top, the sides, like it's going to turn out to be like a lot fatter probably than like what I'm imagining it. Let's see. There's like a place for the head down here, right? I think it's like I could do two pieces. And so the head goes here. So you just kind of want to draw out your vision. Super important, because if you don't do that, you can make something really big. You can make something way too small. I'm just going to give it like a little small base. Go off this page. And then come in here, create that part. Then you create the blade. Oops. Create the blade. So this will be interesting. So got kind of like so many shapes here. So you got 1 shape, 2, 3. You can even have a little string. And I'll use like a real string for this probably. Like twine or something. 4, 5, 6. That could be on top of it too. It doesn't need to be a different shape. 7, 8, 9. Okay, not so bad. So there's just one way you could do like a miniature one. And the great thing about felting is that you take the wool and you can make it literally the size of whatever. I'll probably end up making it just a little bit bigger, but this is the only size posted that I had. So it ends up kind of being the same size, which is really great. So that's why I always say it's really good to like kind of draw things out. Another way we could do this, we could literally take these like pipe cleaners and we could just start making what they call an armature. Let's see. So, and we can use the model too if we wanted to. We can make it a little bit bigger. I like to give it a little bit more structure and weight, so I kind of double up. kind of looks like I just like cut someone's hair off and it's just this like patchy thing, or maybe it's an animal of sorts. Ugh. Anyone just popping in and be like, what the fuck is that? So what you could do is twist some. I never play music when I'm streaming, and then I therefore end up humming, so apologies, y'all. So there's part of that, and this doesn't have to be perfect. Like, none of this does. The great thing about needle felting is that there's kind of no rules, other than like stab your needle into the wool, and then also, like, if you fuck up, if you mess up, you can always start over, which is awesome because there's some crafts out there when you have to start over, it's devastating. So this one makes me feel a little bit better. So I should have said a mini guillotine in my title, but it's fine. So if anyone was expecting life size, sorry. Okay, so you can kind of twist this down and then creates like some sort of blade. The blade is like a very unique shape. You literally could make the whole structure like this, and then you're just gonna twist your wool around it, which is awesome. And like very helpful if you're not the best at free styling it and you just need a little bit more of a starting point. Lots of people use these for animals and people, but you can also use them for structure too. There's so many different ways to needle felt, so like, people feel free to judge because I'm okay with that. So now we're at like the little head part, like where the head fits in. Oh, yeah. Don't drop your needles on your lap because that can end up hurting. These needles are sharp. There's ways to protect yourself when you're doing this. That is the good thing about it. The hobby, they're kind of cumbersome. I don't really care for them as much. So then I don't use them a lot, and then I can really end up stabbing myself and it hurts. Made with blood, sweat, and tears. Okay, it's not on the camera anymore. My bad, guys. My iPhone that I use loves to just like fuck around and zoom in on weird things. So here's like where the head hole is, but I can refine that later. Just like twist. I'm going to start up here so there's a little bit more. And then I'm making this go around. So I'm going to make my this whole shape, and I'm just going to make a circle where the head would go. And I might just use this because it's going to give it some stiffness. It's going to help it stand up straight, like propped up on a desk or wherever you want to display your little miniature guillotine. And so I think having some like actual wire in it could be helpful rather than just like creating these shapes just from wool. It's just gonna be a little harder. Let me get my proportions right. That's a big place where the head's gonna go. It kind of looks like a square Pokeball or like the Instagram logo. Maybe I might need to make the blade bigger. And it's gonna go around. Or this guy's just got a really big noggin and needs a big hole to fit his big ass head because you know it's a dude. I mean, they did use it on Marie Antoinette too, so it's like, you know, no discrimination there, but it's just basically rich people. And then I needed space, and I could do this like a lot of different ways. Maybe what I'll do here, just to give it even more stabilization. Here is that we're gonna We're going to make it like a triangular shape, I think. So it's gonna... This is where freehanding it, freestyle, armature design, kind of always, it's like, do I really want to do that? Yes, I do. Okay, got it. The base obviously could be extended. You could put more wire on this. You could do less wire. You could put a lot more wool on the base, make it heavy, put a magnet on, like on the bottom. You could put some weighted beads in it that are meant to like be put in like stuffies or plushies if they need to, like, you know, like all those Christmas decorations that are like propped up and stand on a shelf or something. They always have some weight in the bottom. Like people literally just put like weighted, there's metal, little metal beads in there, and it helps weight it down. And then you just sew that in. And then what I can do is bring it over here. So it's like really rickety as of this moment, but it's fine because we're gonna make it a lot more stable with the wool that we're gonna put around it. So I'm not too worried. It's totally allowed to be this wobbly. And I don't even need to like put wire on the other side if I really don't want to. I don't think I'm going to have enough, so okay, enough room for a big fat head. Maybe I need to squish it down a little bit because it's like they're supposed to be kind of like kneeling and their head goes through it. So I kind of like that. I think that's what I'm going to do. We're going to work on putting wool around this bad boy. So move my Post-it off. Can use this white wool underneath that I don't really need. Oh, I'm trying to like pull this apart. My God, I've jacked with this wool quite a bit, so it's like it's had better days. I wish it was coarser. This is again like tops wool probably, but it's gotten a little like it's been around other colors, so therefore it's not as pure anymore. It's not like stark white, so I can use it for the inside of stuff and that'll be fine. So then I'm going to start moving this around and circling it around the pipe cleaner. Like I can just do this. I'm going to put the brown wool on top of it, so it's going to be like no one's going to see this part. So it's allowed to be a little bit more rough looking. And you're like, oh, this kind of takes away the magic of it. Because like I thought you were just going to make it. I don't know. And like putting this is like cheating, putting this wire in. But it's like, it's not. It's just part of the process. And if you've ever tried to make an armature out of pipe cleaners, it's any shape you want, that could be kind of difficult for some people. So it's still a skill, at least in my opinion. And just put a whole bunch of wool around this stuff off camera. What is up with my... There we go. Alright, now I'm actually going to start stabbing some shit. So just use my needle that's better for coarser or thicker wool. Take a sip. I hear helicopters outside. outside your window. So right now I'm just creating like the base. I'm going to put the brown wool over it. Hopefully it'll still stand. So you're kind of just avoiding the pipe cleaner. Using the needle, which has a bunch of like ridges in it or notches or whatever you want to call it, that help tangle the little fibers of wool together. So, and you definitely don't want to land right on the pipe cleaner with your needle, because then your needle could break, because your needle is very delicate, even though it could stab the shit out of your hand. And this definitely doesn't have to be perfect, but the more poking, stabbing you do, the better it's going to hold its shape, the firmer it will be. Something like a guillotine, you don't want it to be super flimsy, I don't think. So you want it to be really stable. There's some needle felting things that maybe you want to be softer, that you don't want to be super dense. I guess if you were like making a plushie or something, you would want it to be softer and like squishier. Like I made this guy really squishy. You can't see it there. Can you see it? This guy. He's super squishy. So you don't have to stab as many times if you're doing something squishy too. So there's like benefits to knots. But then if you want it to remain intact, child-proof, there's cat-proof, then you would definitely want to stab it quite a bit. So I've never made something that I wanted it to kind of resemble wood. So, but I think wool is like a really good material for that. It's got a lot of texture, obviously, and it can be different. Nothing's like, it doesn't look exactly the same. It doesn't look like super smooth or anything. It can, I guess, but that's how I blended the two browns together, so it would give it like a more natural color. So it wasn't just like this one shade of brown, but it's got like every little angle is like a little bit different in terms of like how the color blends, which is obviously nature-like. This tree isn't just one color. It's got ridges. It's got a lot of depth. It's got a lot of bark. It's all different colors there, which is great. I'm just gonna pad this bad boy up. Okay. It always makes me think of like drag queens and like the padding that goes underneath their tights. And I'm just working on the padding right now. And then I guess the tights would be my full color wool that I put on top of this. This is also a nice way to protect your fingers if you've got the pipe cleaner involved, because you're not using just your finger to create the shape. So you aren't getting your needle really close to your thumb or your index finger, which means maybe it won't be super bloody. I don't know. Mini guillotine. I think I'm just going to put it right on my shelf by my desk. Keep the rage intact. I guess if I was making like one that actually worked, like, or appeared to as though it worked out of wool, like I wouldn't want to like have this structure here. I'd want it like to fit in the where the blade goes, so it would be just a different type of structure, because if I wanted to use like string to move the wool, I would to use the blade like up and down and stuff, like it would be not attached. Same thing with like the head part. If I wanted to be able to just like remove part of the head, where you put the head and put like a little Playmobil inside here or something, like that would be, it would get real dark real quick, but totally doable. Just like we'd have to rethink it, and then we'd have to think about how we're attaching parts together to make sure that we could take them apart if needed. There's definitely different ways you can do that, just with making your blocks like little different shapes that fit together, kind of Jenga-fied. There's like a bed that's like that, where it's just like a bunch of pieces of wood and they just kind of slot together, and there's like no nails or any sort of stuff that makes them stick. They just kind of Lego in, which is cool. I actually have it. I like it a lot. It's very minimal, easy to put together, easy to take apart. It's still very heavy, but this is like the really ugly part. This isn't very like that. Well, I don't know if ever making a guillotine would ever be considered pretty, but and again, I'm going to cover this up with some of the brown wool and the silver for the blade. So this being completely covered isn't like super needed. Just make sure the fibers are sticking together. They're not too flimsy. You can see there's some like specks in here, like something from the field came in on this wool, came off of the animal, and stayed on the fleece. This is just wool, and then we're compressing and poking and stabbing it until it becomes felt. So it's needle felting. Whereas this is like felt, but it's made from a machine with probably thousands of needles. And I just have one needle, but I can stab it quite a bit to make it just as firm. Stab over and over and over again. You could use the brown wool if you wanted to, but then I feel like you don't want to use your like limited supply of brown if you have like lots of white. And I don't have on me, I left it in the other room, but I have like wool that's actually coarser. It's more like batting. That's way easier to sculpt and way faster than this very fine, silky shit that I'm using. That's just me not prepping before, because I didn't really know what I was doing even before I started this. This is really all ad-libbing. This is just kind of what I was feeling in the mood for after reading the headlines of the day. Well, and some of the articles, but you get into deeper articles and you're just like, oh God, I didn't want to know as much of this tragic state that we're in, as much as I know now, but knowledge is power, y'all. Make the felt. arm. Build it up around your base first. That's always good. It's just like see like, oh, if you wanted it to stand this way, like, is it really going to stand? Because if I did it all flat laying down, it'd be flat on one side, it'd be on this back side, but it also might not actually stand. So it's always good if you want something to hold its own, where you don't have to like create a base for it. Then you want to make sure you're creating that shape to be able to stand. So dealing with, I guess, the physics of it. Saying, is this enough wool on the base? Like, is there enough base itself, or is it just going to flop? Like, AC kicks on and then this thing just goes over. Who knows? Trying to think of the last movie I saw someone like use a guillotine in. I guess I was watching Game of Thrones, and I think they had one. I mean, most of the time, I think they just use someone to take someone's head off, but there might have been some moments where they used a guillotine to chop someone's head off, but from what I recall, it was an individual with a huge ass sword, so don't really remember the guillotine in play as much. I actually don't know if I've ever seen one be used in a movie. I feel like that can't be true. Someone had to be showing off. That would be a cool thing to make, like as someone on the set of a movie, an artisan making like a functional guillotine. It'd be pretty cool. So there's definitely like more space in between where the head goes. Multiple heads. So can't make that too thick right there. So I need to probably like really condense this part. Sometimes you can like over pad, and then obviously the wool you're going to put on top of it, and you covering up the white like was going to take up even more room, and it just becomes like really chunky. So like something to watch out for as well. You just don't want to be having the chonkiest of chonky guillotines, I guess. Or you can. Especially on the bottom. It's totally fine. You can remove this stuff. I was reading or watching some YouTube video or something, and it was like, if you've only felt it or only been stabbing for like 40 minutes, like you probably need another like 30 minutes. And it's like, holy shit, just on one thing. Other ways you can get around that is obviously, like I said, using a coarser wool to start off with, using multiple needle, like a tool where it has multiple needles in it. I don't have mine on this desk. That always helps. I guess using one of those like electric needles with multiple needles, like tool, but I tried one and it was scary, and I thought I was just gonna like stab through the pad into my leg. Like, it was kind of outrageous, so I gave up on that pretty quick, and then it actually broke. So those aren't the best qualities, but it definitely cuts the time in half, maybe even more than half, 3/4. And you can go in at an angle with your needle for sure, like I'm doing right now. Kind of like a 45. But you gotta watch out. Like, if you bend the needle when it's in there, like, it can break. So you gotta keep it straight, even if you're going in at an angle. Remember, needle with force. Don't just poke it in and then pull it out all easy peasy. Like, get in there and put some weight behind it, it's just going to be better. We'll catch all the little nooks and crannies, and the fibers will knot really well. Okay. It's not standing right now, but you can totally like flatten. It's obviously going to get, oh, it is standing. It's going to get flatter and denser and heavier as you put more wool on there. So it is important to have like a good base. But we can deal with that when we put the brown on, and then we put the wood on. And if I wanted it to be rounded on the bottom, like I wouldn't be just stabbing it down. I would have to rotate. And stab some back here. If you wanted to go really fast, I guess you could do that too. But I don't want to break my needle. I don't want to stab my finger. I've already done that quite a bit today. So working on some smaller miniature pieces. Smaller minis. I don't know why I always make small things, but I think they're somehow the size calls to me. Probably because I don't have the space for it. I don't have the space, I don't have the money to make really big life-size things. So tiny little replicas. It's a bit more of a frugal way to go. Okay, let's add more. Another way, kind of hack, is to just pull apart some of this finer wool to then add the tangles. I don't really know how well that really works, but it helps blend the two colors together for sure. So let's hope. I really don't need to put that much thickness around it. Just like one loop is fine. Over and under. Because we don't want to make it... And this is like a full block, so we don't even need to like loop. Like if we just wanted to do this part down here. These are filled in. Tangle that shit up. Okay. Get the hole out of the way. Make sure there is a hole. Poke the needle through the hole. So that's where the little itty bitty head goes. I guess I could get one of the Barbies. We could do that. I think my brother would have loved to have a little Barbie guillotine back in the day. That would have made his day. I mean, he ripped the heads off of mine anyways, so he didn't necessarily need it, but it would have definitely made it more of a ceremony, I guess, or more dramatic for sure than just ripping off the head. The hole in. It just kind of looks like spiderweb material, huh? Some people actually use that stuff. If you want to be real frugal, real like on budget, under budget, you could definitely use the spiderweb stuff. It has similar texture. It's made of, I don't know what it's made of. It's definitely synthetic, but it's, I mean, it's real similar. It's just like very fine little pieces of something. And you could totally use that if you're on a budget. It's a little bit more unwieldy, I think. Like, I sometimes use the batting that you would use in like stuffed animals or pillows. And I mean, that gets a little crazy, like to just control. Real wool is like way easier to manipulate with these needles. There's a lot more like space in between the batting material. It doesn't like tangle like really naturally, so you really do have to like work at it a little bit, but it makes for a very cheap project, and no one knows because it's just inside underneath all the wool. So you go use your finer wool on top of the batting. And it probably, I don't know, adds to the half-life of your project. Okay, so you have to remember that like this is like a two-parter, 2 blocks. So we want to maybe do some outlines. Maybe we do like a threaded outline of all the separate pieces, the blocks, so then it really looks like it was crafted from wool. I don't know. Just kind of spitballing. Maybe I'll just talk to my husband and see, like, could we make a working wool guillotine? Anything is possible. Basically, my pad, like, underneath is also wool. I mean, it's felt, so yeah, it's wool. Super compressed. So this stuff could get stuck on there. You just have to remember to flip it occasionally. I don't know how well you can hear the stabbing, but it's also, it's pretty soothing. It'd be nice if this wool could like pick up the other wool color fibers I have on my mat right now. Just like soak up that red, get that black. Just absorb it all. Okay. Again, I think that's pretty good. Let's see. And put more brown at the base to like cover it up a little bit more. But I can do more white in here. I don't know about any other parents, but I have Frozen stuck in my head. Maybe because it looks like I'm building some sort of weird ice thing. But I have let it go in my head. And even though my child has not watched that in a quick, like, I don't know, like maybe like a week or so, just popped in there, and it's definitely going to stay. So basically firming up the inside, and then I'll wrap the brown, and then the silver for the blade will be here. And then, yeah, it might be a little chunky of a, I can at least start covering it in brown, see what that look like. Let's see. So I put two browns together to kind of give it like the look of wood, where it's like there's a different grain. Is that what it's called? No, I don't know. Like the circles of wood, the colors of wood. It's like more dynamic than just like one color of brown. So we'll see how that works. And we're just gonna like put it on as base. And what you want to do is just like, you can hold it down if you want to on one side, you can pin it down. We're just going to start poking this into the white. I think, yeah, let's see. This is the base of the guillotine. And literally you just start stabbing. Just watch out for your fingers. And this part, you don't have to like stab it too much, as much as you did like the base of the white, because here it's just about covering up the white. Well, it depends on what outcome you want. If you want it to be like more woolly and and have little like dangly wool flyaways, then you don't have to felt as much. But if you wanted it like super smooth, then you would probably felt a lot more, and you would probably stab this bad boy for like hours to get it to the way you wanted to. But it's just like your taste level. I mean, it's just like taste, what you prefer, your preference. Sorry, it's not taste. But I like, oops, nicked my thumb. God. This is like, should I put my cover on so I don't nick my thumbs anymore? But then I'm like, no, I hate that thing. I have like a little finger cover. But it just gets in my way, and I forget to wear it. I wear it on like the wrong finger. So I kind of, I mean, it's definitely maybe up on a shelf, like under a shadowy light, not just this like full on blast, like it'll look like wood. Maybe I need to, I'm not even sure what color wood this would be. It's very chocolatey. You can kind of shape it how you want. You just like kind of drag like the threads of the wool into like, if you want to make corners, so it doesn't look as rounded and it looks more like pieces of wood blocked together, which is what I'm doing. I'm like pulling it into the corners and focusing on pulling the wool into the corners, basically, that I've made with my pipe cleaners. And there's a little stabby part, so you just bent the pipe cleaner a little bit more. But it's crazy, like once you start doing this and you kind of get a hang of it, like you could just do this for hours. You could just be like watching TV, doing whatever, just stabbing away, super cathartic, like very meditative, like just low key and chill. Just, it's about learning like a little bit of how to do it and then sticking with it and just getting better. Maybe watching like a few YouTube videos or something just to learn, you know, like the basics. But your first one's always going to look a little wonky. So don't be too hard on yourself. And also, if you make a kit, like I'm making this like from my own head, like from scratch, just being like, I wanted to make a guillotine because I'm pissed today, and it's going to help make me feel better. But I mean, if you get one of those like really cute kits, like those directions are not helpful usually. There's just some pictures and you're just like, what am I doing? I think even one person on Reddit was saying like, oh, I stabbed this thing for so long and it never caught on, it never worked. And she was like totally using like a different tool that came to put like a tool that you used to like put eyes in, like the glass eye part of like the stuffy plushy thing that she was making. So there was like no ridges like in the actual needle tip, so the fibers like weren't getting tangled together and taking shape. So she was just literally like stabbing something that wasn't ever gonna work. She said she did that for way too long before she realized, but at least she posted about it, because I think that's how she figured out she was doing it using the wrong tool. But and then I can put some on this side. Again, the 2 shades of brown that I put together. Some people like to ball it up and sculpt that way. I'm just going to lay it top on top in hopes that it'll take a wood type of shape. I guess I could have twisted it too, just a little bit. I think this back part is just straight wood. Ooh. My needle bent a little bit. I hit the pipe cleaner, so you're just going to make sure that you don't do that. Because then your needle tip flies somewhere. Like, it's good that I wear glasses. Like, one time it went like across the room, but a bad thing would be to get a needle stuck in something you were giving to someone else. I just feel really uncomfortable about that. It's like, here's the thing, and like, watch out, because there's just like a fucking needle inside somewhere, but I don't know where. Like, best of luck. Especially if like they have cats or something, you know, and the cat gets into it. Like, ugh, it'd be bad if you're making a cat toy and like at the end of your project you just bust a needle like right inside of it somewhere and you don't know. It's kind of like that Friends episode where Monica loses a fake nail in a bunch of lasagnas, and she's made like so many pans because she's catering. She doesn't know which pan of lasagna the nail is in. She has to tell her mom because that's who her client is. Throw it away. That would suck. As someone who now runs their own business, like, losing a client that way would be really shitty. It's like, I touched your miniature that you gave me and then it stabbed me. Like, oof. It'd be bad. So be very careful with your needle. Always thrust down and pull out at the same angle. Never like push in, change up the angle, and then pull out. Ah, I almost did it again. Ah, the pipe cleaner. One of the shitty parts of using armatures inside. And some people don't use pipe cleaners. Some people get like actual like wire and use that. But pipe cleaners have multiple benefits for me. They're prettier, cuter, can bend them easier. You don't have to use wire cutters or wire tools to shape the shape. You can also repurpose them for kid crafts. So I wonder if it's going to stand like this. Again, it's going to take me like many more, I think, hours to really refine this and make it have like the wood texture that I want, the right shape, the right corners, so it doesn't look round, but it looks like it's made of wood. I need the base to be flat. So it's just, but that's this whole process. Like, it's just super iterative. It's like, okay, I finished that part. I need to go back to the other part and refine it. It's definitely a grind, but it's a grind I enjoy. You can see a little bit of purple poking out. So you could like ball this up, stab on top. I can make it more square up front too. and flat looking. You could have more 90-degree angles happening. You could even like make your shape off this on your pad and then do like a little block and then put the block on if you wanted to. So then each like side of the wood would really look like a block of wood. It would look very smooth and have those beautiful 90-degree angles and flat sides, flat bottom, flat top. Yeah, maybe that's something to consider for the next phase of it. Oh, not standing. Yeah, maybe make longer base. Like you could make some, like roll this up and you could just make some wood pieces out like this. You can make it really flat and square. You can get it as crazy perfectionist as you want on all of it. Make sure you flip so it doesn't totally stick to your pad. You don't want to like take scissors to this though, because basically if you do that, then you're losing all your like curly little wire pieces, or not wire. You're losing all your curls of your wool, and you're making the wool fibers shorter and more straight. And you don't want to do that when you're trying to attach something to something else. You guys can't see what I'm doing. I hate this stupid phone. I don't know why it does this, and I need to look in the setting to like turn that off. So if you wanted to get super anal about this and like have it be the perfect little block, but for the sake of what I'm doing time-wise, you could like have it like shoot out like this. Like if you wanted to have the front, and you could do one in the back too, and then you could have the base that way. But you could even rotate. So if you wanted to make it more 3D than like flat and 2D, you could do that too. And rather than like rotating, doing every side, like, because you don't want it to be round, you want it to be sharp and rectangular. Oh, it's getting very close to possibly stabbing myself. This just looks like a little rodent poop. Sorry for those of you that don't know what rodent poop looks like, but I've had many a rodent, and it's getting dangerously close to that territory. Not exactly the same color. That would be weird, but there was this guy on like 90 Day Fiancé that had a ton of guinea pigs, and they just made me think of him. And I mean, in the promos, they like introduced the guinea pigs even before they like introduced his fiance, and I just thought that was so funny. He had like 5, and he was like, clearly they were like the loves of his life. Made me laugh. But you could like needle fault this in. You could just attach it by pushing it in, getting it caught up, and then you would have more of like this base on each side. If you made like 4 of them, then they go on each side. Like usually if I was not streaming this, like I would do 4 and they'd all be the same shape. I do the four of them first, and then I'd make sure they are the same shape and the same size, and then I would put them on both sides. And I'd be super anal about it, but you can see that already it's standing up straighter. It's got some like little leg support, but it would have 2 on each side, but I can work on that too. I think it's my time to call it, but I'll be back tomorrow, either working on part 2 of the guillotine or painting a dog. But thanks for spending some time with me, and if you're making your own guillotine, I'd love to see it.